both in.
We're both in. Hi, John Solari here from the Method Actor Speaks. And today we have a lifetime member of the Actors Studio, who I've been trying to get on for years. You know, she's always ducking me. Finally, I caught her at the Directors Guild and she agreed. I mean, she's one of the few gifts from the Actors Studio. Well, there's a lot of gifts, but she's a gift from the Actors Studio who really knows the work and helps a lot of people. And I want to welcome to the show, Wendy Girard.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into anything, before we talk about acting, you have Folly of the God. How did that come about?
It's actually not mine. I found it on Facebook.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, I found it on Facebook, and I just keep posting it, and now it's become really popular.
Do you read them?
Oh, of course I read them. I read them before I post them.
Okay.
Some of them I don't post. He's writing a book, so the book is supposed to be published soon, and these are excerpts from the book. He's interviewed a lot of actors
from the old days. If any of you on Facebook, look for it. Right? There's a lot of goes back.
Oh yeah, it goes back
way back.
Actors, I think back to the 50s. Oh. Did a lot of interviews with Tennessee Williams.
That I see Marlon Brando and all of it. Actually, is he with that studio?
No, it's not.
Because he does a lot of. Well, back then.
A lot of studio people, mostly studio people, it seems.
And you had this great on your Facebook the other day of them playing softball back in the 70s. I guess Central Park. I guess that was the Broadway League softball.
Yeah,
league.
The Actors Studio softball.
And you had Don Blakely,
Clint Allman,
and
Sully Boyer, J.J. Quinn, Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, and
lots of.
And I was just thinking, it was amazing to watch that. Some of them are here, some of them are not. Sully died on the train coming to the studio. I remember hearing about that. I always liked Sully.
He was great. I love Sully. I think everybody loves Sully.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He spoke his mind out.
He did. That he did.
You know.
Thank God.
You know, when he gave critique, you knew Sully, he liked you or not, he liked your work or not. Now let me ask you something. Why did you become an actor?
Oh, wow. That's a very good question. I think it's a good question to ask all actors.
I think we try.
Yeah. I grew up in Panama, and I grew up kind of a wild child. And when I came to the States, I kind of went into culture shock. Yeah, it was a very different world.
I would imagine.
And I used to stay up late at night and watch movies on television. And I noticed this one director, and I fell in love with all of his movies, and it was Elia Kazan. And I would watch his movies, and I would think, you know, you don't always love the characters in his movies. You know, some of them you wouldn't want to have coffee with. But by the end of the movie, you understand them. And I think you have some compassion for it. And I thought that was phenomenally powerful.
It really was. Keep talking.
When I was a kid, and I saw these movies, I was like, this is the answer to, peace on the planet. If we can teach everyone compassion, solve a lot of problems. So that's why I thought, wow, this is the most powerful thing on the planet.
Passion. That's interesting. So you wanted to do good, you're saying? You wanted to...
Yeah, I thought this is a way to teach people compassion.
That's an interesting... Not for the fame, not for... But for compassion of people?
And world peace.
Really?
Yes.
So you were a real hippie.
Well, this is before hippies. I was a kid. So this is, I just, Well, like I say, when I grew up in Panama as a kid, I was, spent a lot of time in the jungle, on the ocean, and boats. I mean, and then I came to the United States, and it was like I saw the world. So it was a real contrast. And it was a real kind of rude awakening, but it was also, I saw it, I think, with a lot of objectivity.
Uh-huh.
And, it was, I grew up in paradise, so it was definitely a change. And so I think it was some way of me wanting to recapture paradise, make the world a better place. I don't know.
So how'd you go about it? When you came to the United States, did you come to New York or where'd you come?
D.C.
D.C.
Washington, D.C. Yeah.
So, I mean...
My father worked for the federal government, and but my family's from New York, so I used to spend summers in New York, but upstate. But I would stay up and watch these movies on television, and then one day there was an ad in the Washington Post for auditions. And I thought, wow, well, I'll go watch the auditions and I'll learn what a director does. Because I was interested in directing. I had no interest in acting.
Really?
I just thought movies was the most powerful medium in television, and I wanted to direct. So I go to this audition, I sit in the back of the theater in the dark, hiding in the back row, and watched all day as the director held the auditions. And then at 5 o'clock, he turned around and looked at me and he said, "Okay, it's your turn." And I said, no, I'm not here to audition, I'm just here to observe. No, he said, come on. He insisted, and I kept going, no. And finally I relented, and I went up, and he gave me the part on the spot.
How old were you then?
15, I think.
15?
Yeah.
And Kazan gave you the spot on it?
No, this was in D.C. Yeah.
A different director.
Yeah, a director named John Hall, British director. Anyway, so I did a lot of theater in D.C., sort of non-stop. I was always working, and did great theater, great plays, and worked at the Washington Theater Club, worked at Arena Stage, the Washington Shakespeare Festival. And at Arena Stage, I did Murat Saad, directed by Alfred Ryder, who was a member of the studio, and Johnny Strasberg was in it. And so Johnny and I met and fell in love instantly. And after several months, I got him a part in a movie that I was doing with Susan Sarandon, my first movie. And
you have her eyes. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Your eyes like Susan Sarandon.
Really?
No,
that's a new one.
As soon as you said that, you could see her.
Wow. So anyway, after a few months, he said, I either have to live in New York or LA. And I said, well, if you go to New York, I'll go with you, and if you go to LA, I won't. And so we moved to New York, and I started going to these classes at Carnegie Hall. And he was in the studio, everybody I knew was in the studio, so I said, well, I guess I should audition for the studio, so I did. And I got in on my first audition.
What did you do? Do you remember
I did Grushev Akhnadze from a Caucasian Chalk Circle by Bertolt Brecht. I loved Brecht. I'd done
you like comedy, huh?
Well, the studio doesn't really like comedy, do they? I mean, come on. But anyway, no, I loved Brecht. He was my favorite playwright. He still is. I love Brecht. Yeah. So, and it was interesting, the audition, I was very young and totally intimidated. I was completely intimidated by New York, by everybody I met, by everything, by the city, everything.
Right.
It was totally intimidating. And of course, going up the staircase into the audition there, and the black hole, where it's literally pitch black, you can't see anything. And then I just snapped into the world of the play. And I was on a mountainside washing clothes in a stream, and that's where I was. that's where I was until the end of the audition, and then it was over, and I was like, wow, what happened? I came out of it, and that was it.
I like it when you said what happened, because you don't remember, do you? Really?
I just remember the water being really cold on my hands, and the grass and the wildflowers and the snow in the mountains and the rocks.
Because see, the only thing I remember about my final, I did Frankie and Johnny with Judy Baldwin. I remember grabbing her down around here, around the bottom part of her leg. That's all I remember of the scene.
Grabbing her around the knees?
Around the knees, yeah.
That's all you remember?
That's all I remember.
Did she remind you of anything? Did she tell you what happened?
No, she never told me what happened, but I mean, I passed. But I remember that. That's all I remembered afterwards, what I did. I don't remember the lines. I still have the play here, and I don't remember what scene it was.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's
and I
amazing.
did that because the only reason I did Frankie and Johnny is because Salome told me to do it. And I told her, I don't
Good
identify
choice.
with this.
Good choice.
And she said,
You didn't
just
identify.
do it. No, I didn't.
Wow.
And she told me to just do it. So that's what I did.
And you got in?
And it was Mark Rydell, Marty Landau, and Sidney Pollack. But I know there's more than that, but I remember they were sitting in front.
You could see them.
Yeah.
See, in New York, you couldn't see.
Well, out here you could. I mean, when I walked in.
Right.
So,
No, in New York, you couldn't
I mean, when it was
see
over.
anything.
When I was over there, because they talked to Judy. That's when I noticed them. Anyway, when you were studying back then originally, what was that like? I mean, there's the exercises in the class. What was that about? If you could have any stories.
Okay, this is going to be really revealing. Well, see, when I was in D.C., I studied, and I'd read all of Stanislavski. I studied acting at the Washington Theater Club a little bit, and then at Arena Stage they had an improv troupe called The Living Stage, and so I did improv for a year, Spolin Improv, Viola Spolin Improv, for a year with two of her proteges, and that was absolutely incredible. It was unbelievable. It was such a high. I mean, I was high as a kite for a year. It was,
really?
it was a gas. It was, I mean, what do I say? I don't know what to say. Yeah, it was great. And then, you know, I go to Lee's classes at Carnegie Hall, and I'm going, oh my God, what the hell are these people doing? What are they? I don't know. Seemed pretty self-indulgent to me, you know. I really had a hard time. We got the street traffic, we got the phones going, we got all kinds of things. Are you gonna edit? Do you edit this?
No, we keep going.
You don't edit it, huh?
No.
Okay, so this is on. Yeah, I was quite appalled, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I just, did you go, were you ever in Lee's classes?
Not in these classes,
Oh,
but I
well.
studied, I exactly,
Oh, well.
we're not a man out in the village.
You know, watching what some of the people were doing was kind of, it was very different than anything I'd been exposed to. And I had a hard time with it. And then, you know,
Why do you think you had a
basically,
hard time with it?
because I didn't understand. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand what, I mean, I knew intellectually, you know, Johnny explained it to me, but I was like, whoa, this is, you know, pretty strange. It took me a long time to understand. It took me a long time to understand, really, what Lee was doing. You know.
The wind.
I think that's the wind. That's amazing.
Oh, it's Lee listening.
Can you close the vents?
No, it's all right.
Oh, okay. That's, I feel like there's, you know, a hurricane right here.
Gives the show.
You know,
Interesting.
I think a lot of people don't really understand Lee's work. I think even after 20, 30 years, there are people who don't really understand Lee's work. I think a lot of people leave not understanding. I think, and then, you know, there are, of course, a lot of members of the Actors Studio who do, because they were there and they stayed and they've been there for a long time. But I think Lee's work is not superficial, right? It's not it's anything but superficial. You know, I mean, you know, people, you know, often accused him of trying to be a psychiatrist, right? But
well, he did want that emotional memory.
Yeah, yeah,
so, I mean,
yeah. He wanted people to dig deep and explore their physicality, their sensory, all their five senses, and past memories and associations and all that stuff. So
I always thought of it as like almost like Freud on stage.
well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what Lee was doing.
Yeah,
You know.
Sigmund Freud on stage.
Yeah, yeah. And some people were damaged by it. You know.
Right, because yes,
They
I heard
could-
a lot of stories of that.
You know, I mean, if you're not a psychiatrist, it's not the wisest thing in the world to take somebody back through traumatic memories of their past and then just kind of leave them there. Oh, that's an acting exercise, that's it, bye. You know, some people, that's not a good thing to do for them. So
What do you think why they, you know?
a lot of people ended up getting
Yeah,
stuck.
I mean, there has to be the sensitivity or the trauma of what they're afraid of really going back there, and it's a mechanism of...
And a lot of people aren't really that conscious of what's going on. You know, they're not that aware. I mean, a lot of people have repressed memories, you know. A lot of people have traumas that have never been touched, you know, that have never been dealt with, that have never been grieved or mourned or, you know, acknowledged. Acknowledged. So, you know, and there were a lot of people who I think, you know, had problems as a result. But on the other hand, you know, the work that he developed from Stanislavski and the way he developed it is brilliant. If you do it right, and if you know what you're doing, and if you know what you're doing, if you do it right, you know.
Well, he says it's your imagination, but you're in control.
Yes, you're in control.
You know,
Yes, you're in control. You're always in control.
you have to be.
You're always in control.
Right.
Even though we go to that audition at the studio and we have no memory of what happened.
Right. That's true. You're in control.
It's a kind of an altered state, you know,
Yes.
that we entered. It's an altered state. But some part of us is in control.
Some part of it is, yeah. It has to
Always
be.
in control.
Or else you're not going to come out of it. You're going to...
Right. And
know.
that's the problem that happened to some people. They didn't come out
Come
of
out
it.
of it, yeah. That's,
And so they stayed there and they, you know, became victims of it in a sense. You
well,
know?
do you think maybe
And
they
then it
weren't
was
meant
like,
to be
oh, poor
actors?
me. And I think some people are probably too sensitive to be actors.
Too sensitive?
Yeah. Acting requires tremendous sensitivity,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I don't think everyone can handle revealing that sensitivity to the world, because the world is a very hard place. The world is a very hard, you know,
Yeah.
lots of hard surfaces, hard edges, you know. It's a very hard place. It's
That's
not a
true.
soft place.
But it also, like Marty would say, or there's others, that all that pain and everything is a gift
Oh,
to the actor.
without it, you're not going to be a great actor, probably. I mean, you got to have some. You got to have something going on. You got to have something going on. You have to have something that you're fighting for, in a way, as a human being. I mean, for me, it was about. It was all about feeling. It was all about the ability to communicate feeling. And
Why is that important to you? To
because
communicate
I think because I grew up alone. I grew up very isolated from other people. So I think as I got older, it became a real need to communicate. Yeah, I was, you know.
I was just channeling Salome Chen's. I didn't realize it when she's critiques. What is the need? What is the need? Why are you doing
That's
this?
essential. What's the need? But it's essential as an actor. What is your need? Do you really need to be an actor? Because if you don't, if you aren't compelled, if it isn't a compulsion, don't do it. It's not worth it. You know. I mean, studying is great because I think studying makes you a bigger human being. I think it makes you a better human being. You know, assuming you're studying with a really good teacher. It broadens your humanity, it deepens your humanity, you know.
That it does, yes.
And I think that's why people are so attracted to actors, because they have developed their humanity. They've developed their humanity, and they're able to express it and articulate it, and they're not afraid of it. And I think that, you know, it requires tremendous courage to be an actor, to be a good actor. To be willing to go to the deep places or, you know, stretch to the outer limits, you know, push the envelope.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of courage.
Well, like Barrymore said, in order to be a success, you got to be willing to fail.
Oh, absolutely. That's why studying is so important, because you don't want to fail on the job. You know, you don't want to fail on the job, because otherwise you may never work again.
Speaking of studying, the difference, I remember, well, it's different for you, because at the studio back in the 70s, when you're talking about the difference between then and now, the communication between actors today, I don't think even compares to what it was like then. The friendships, I remember Shelley Winters always saying, you know, you do scenes with them because you want to go to bed with them, that person. That's why but you got to know. And it's so easy when we do a scene, if you had made love, you had gone to bed, it's so easy to be so free.
Yeah. Intimacy is required.
Yes.
You can't be afraid of intimacy, and you have to have the capacity, you have to be willing to be intimate. You know, I don't think you necessarily have to sleep with your scene partner.
Well, that was Shelley.
But a lot of people did in those days. It was the 70s. A lot of people did. Yeah, but intimacy, absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you create that without sleeping with somebody?
That's one.
You know,
Let's hold that.